Okay, guys, welcome to part two in our search of Def Leppard's greatest ever song. And I'm going to go to Lee Spencer for your number four.
Okay, so I'm actually going back to the same album again for my number four. I'm going for a single this time, and it's Photograph.
Oh, yes.
Now, I think this is one of the bands that the massive difference between a short period of time between, the debut and the rough edge of that we've spoken about, and then High and Dry, which was a year later, I think, and then this was 83. And I don't think there are not many bands that have, made massive steps up like this band has in that short period of time, and massive drops down at the same time. Anyway, the perfect single in my opinion. So I think many bands after this song and this album tried to reach the heights and emulate Leppard. I think they led the way, which for me is a bit disappointing now, because I think that they literally led the way back then. Bands would follow them and try to emulate their backing vocals, how good they were, and their harmonies, and how good their songwriting was. And bands couldn't even keep up with them, in my opinion, back then. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but Phil Lynott, literally, and Thin Lizzy, they brought out Thunder and Lightning that same year, I think before Pyromania or around about the same time. And Phil Lynott goes on record saying when he heard Pyromania, the album, he just went, well, what's the point? Because it was that good. And now, when I hear them sounding like T-Rex, I think, what the fuck happened to Def Leppard? That's what I think, I'm sorry, Def Leppard fans. But Photograph literally is a pop metal masterpiece, in my opinion. It's heavy as well, it's rocking. And totally, it's just irresistible, isn't it? From the moment it starts until the time it finishes.
So good.
Like I said, those backing vocals, those vocal harmonies are just super sweet, aren't they? And you hear them do them live. They're perfection. I mean, it's got everything in it. This song, it's got cowbell, a lot of cowbell as well. I was listening to it again last night. Literally, the chorus is just like hitting that cowbell. It's just perfection. I remember hearing it, and remember that's 83 still. So there's a lot of metal around at that time, and it was almost like so melodic, but it had an attitude about it as well, which was the cool thing.
And he's still so young at that point. Like there are 3 albums in or whatever, but he's still so young. So absolutely. You forget how young they actually are.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah. So I love that. And Photograph is kind of a song that you could go out and say it to just a casual fan, and they could say, name a Def Leppard song, name 2 Def Leppard songs. They could name that. It's so iconic, that song for that. Yeah, absolutely. Great choice, my friend. Mark Lower, what have you got? Number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is going to be from Hysteria. It is my favorite track from actual album Hysteria, and it is Gods of War. I think this is probably the heaviest song on the album, maybe. Just absolutely love the riff. It's an epic track. I think it should have been released as a single, but maybe it was a little too controversial. I don't know. Because of the war sentiment.
That's probably the only song on the album that wasn't released as a single.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just love this song. When I think of Hysteria, this is the song I immediately want to hear. I love about half of Hysteria, and this is the crowning achievement of that album for me. It still to this day gives me chills at the very end when you hear Reagan and you hear Margaret Thatcher.
Oh yeah.
The segments of their speeches that they put into that song. I just thought that was brilliant. Added so much to the song and makes me wish that world leaders had testicles now like they did back then. Just a great song, and never get tired of hearing it.
That's my favourite song on the album as well. And to tell you the truth, I loved Hysteria when it first came out. But the problem with it now is I literally, I can play, they're so fresh to me, those High and Dry and Pyromania. I put anything on from Hysteria, I just it's like listening to Don't Stop Believing or into Sandman for me. It's just
You
awful.
melt away with it. Yeah,
no, can't do it.
I understand. No, I get you. I'll defend Hysteria till the death. I'll fight you both. I don't care. I'll go for it. But I understand. You're right. I understand what you're saying. I think Hysteria was just I was a child when I first heard it. You know, very good choice, Mark. Love that. Brilliant stuff. At number 4, I'm going for Bringing on the Heartbreak from 1981's High and Dry. Now, Def Leppard purists, I think we've been through this a little bit already early on here in this video, but you know, Def Leppard purists will just love that record. And Bringing on the Heartbreak for me is like just the epitome of that album. And we've mentioned again, they're just so hungry for success here. Joe's voice is so raw. The band is raw. You know, they're just they want it. They want it so bad. Very different than what you just mentioned around Hysteria earlier on here. You're right, absolutely. You put it side by side. This is just so much more raw and hard. And man, I just love that riff over Joe's vocal. You know that dun, 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 oh, can't you see? Dun, 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 dun. It's just like it's just you've got your earphones on. I do have a question for you, though, very quick on High and Dry. Is that what genre would you call it? Is that hard rock? Is it metal? What is it? What would you, give me one answer here between, you know, one each. What genre of music is High and Dry? What would you class it?
I would call it. Well, I got two answers. In the 80s, we would definitely have called it metal. Today I would probably classify it as hard rock, just because the metal, as you guys know, the metal label has 982 subgenres now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of annoying that the term heavy metal has been hijacked, so to speak.
Diluted.
Yeah, that, you know, some people now, when they hear heavy metal, they only think of, you know, the modern crap that they call heavy metal.
I mean, I totally agree. When I was a kid, it was all metal. And then, it's a hard rock album for sure. It's almost like, you remember that album in particular has a real AC/DC feel to it as well, especially the guitars.
Yeah.
It has that feel, and I don't know if you guys know this, but they obviously it's the same producer, isn't it, for them?
Yeah.
It was AC/DC for Back in Black, isn't it?
What line?
Yeah.
So, and apparently they went in and it weren't just the same producer, they plugged into the same amps.
Right.
So that's how you get that. That's how some of those songs, especially songs like High and Dry, the title track, really have an AC/DC feel, you know, not in just the nature of them, but even the guitar sound is just AC/DC all over.
Okay, good stuff, guys. Love it for number 4. Guys, come back and join us for part 3 of this series.